I arrived at my son's for Christmas dinner. My daughter-in-law blocked the door. "No room for you?" she said. A plastic plate on the floor with scraps. "Why don't you wait on the porch? I'll bring you a plate later." I laughed. "Oh, honey, dogs are loyal unlike you." I pulled out my phone and sent my son the photos her and her boss working late. If you are watching this, subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Let me tell you how a grandmother learned to bite back. My name is Evelyn Parker. And at 68, I thought I had seen every flavor of family drama. 3 marriages, 2 divorces, 1 widowhood, and a son who married a woman who makes black widow spiders look cuddly. But standing on that front porch at 1524 Oakwood Drive on December 25th, 1993, holding a pie that took me 4 hours to perfect, I realized I had been naive about human cruelty. The house looked like something from a magazine. Kimberly had insisted on the colonial renovation in 2021, all funded by my son Michael Parker's promotion to regional sales manager at Northbridge Pharma. White columns, red door wreaths on every window. Martha Stewart would have wept with joy. Too bad the woman inside had the warmth of a meat locker. Evelyn. Kimberly stood in the doorway wearing a burgundy dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe style she had adopted since deciding I was excess baggage. "What are you doing here?" I blinked. "It is Christmas dinner. Michael invited me last week." That was before we finalized the guest list. She stepped back slightly but kept her body blocking the entrance. Through the gap, I could see the dining room table set for 8 people. Crystal glasses, gold-rimmed plates, the works. No place setting for me naturally. "Kimberly, I brought apple pie." I held up the dish hopefully. "Michael's favorite with the cinnamon crumble you liked last time." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. How thoughtful. But honestly, we are completely full. The Harrisons are here, plus Michael's work colleagues and their wives. There is simply no room. No room. In a house with 6 bedrooms and a dining room that could seat 12? I felt something cold settle in my stomach, but I kept my voice pleasant. Years of dealing with difficult customers at the department store had taught me patience. Perhaps I could wait in the kitchen until someone leaves. "Oh, I do not think so." Kimberly's voice carried that particular tone people use when explaining things to children or very slow adults. "This is really more of a business dinner anyway. You would be bored with all the corporate talk from inside." I heard Michael's laugh, my son who used to curl up in my lap during thunderstorms, who called me every day during his divorce from his first wife, who promised he would never let anyone come between us. That Michael was 30 feet away, probably telling jokes, while his mother stood on the porch like an unwanted door-to-door salesman. "Could I at least speak to Michael?" I asked. "He is in the middle of an important conversation with Mr. Reynolds from the home office." Kimberly glanced back into the house, then returned her attention to me. "Look, Evelyn, I feel terrible about this. Why do I not make you a plate to take home?" She disappeared for exactly 90 seconds, returning with a paper plate covered in aluminum foil. Through the wrapping, I could see turkey scraps, the dark meat nobody wanted, some dry stuffing, and what looked like the heel of a dinner roll. "There we go," she said, setting the plate on the front porch right next to the welcome mat that said, "Blessed Family." Then she did something that will live in my memory until my dying day. She pointed to the ground beside the plate. "You can eat right there if you are hungry like a good dog." The words hung in this December air like visible frost. For a moment, I could not process what I had heard. Dogs. She had compared me to a dog. Not just any dog. A good dog, the kind that obeys commands and eats scraps without complaint. I looked at the plate on the concrete porch, then at Kimberly's face. She was not even trying to hide her satisfaction. This had been planned. The guest list, the seating arrangement, the paper plate, all of it, designed to show me exactly where I ranked in her world. And that was when I started laughing. Not bitter laughter or hysterical cackling, just genuine amusement at the sheer audacity of it all. Because dogs, as I pointed out to my charming daughter-in-law, are loyal creatures. They do not sneak around behind their owners' backs. They do not lie about working late, and they certainly do not check into hotel rooms with their married bosses every Tuesday afternoon for the past 7 months. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo album I had been hoping I would never have to use. "Speaking of dogs, honey," I said, scrolling to the picture I had taken last Tuesday when I had followed her car instead of going to my book club meeting. "At least they are loyal, unlike you." The photo was beautifully clear. Kimberly and her boss, Tom Whitaker, entering the Hilton downtown. Charlotte at 2:47 p.m. The second photo showed them checking in at the front desk. The third showed them kissing in the elevator. I held the phone so she could see the screen clearly. "Should I send these to Michael now, or would you prefer to tell him yourself why you are suddenly so interested in working overtime?" The color drained from Kimberly's face faster than water down a sink. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. For the first time in 3 years, she was completely speechless. "I thought you might appreciate knowing that some of us old dogs still have bite," I said pleasantly. Then I pressed send on the text message I had already typed to Michael's number. From inside the house, I heard his phone notification chime. Then silence, then the sound of a chair scraping against hardwood floor. What happened next would change everything. Michael appeared in the doorway 30 seconds later, holding his phone like it contained a live grenade. His face had gone pale under his Christmas tan from the Bahamas vacation Kimberly had insisted they take in November. Behind him, I could hear the dinner conversation continuing. The Harrisons discussing stock portfolios and Mr. Reynolds sharing golf stories. "Mom." His voice cracked on the word. "What are these pictures?" Kimberly tried to grab the phone from his hands, but he stepped back. I watched my son's face as he scrolled through the evidence of his wife's double life. Each swipe brought a new expression. Confusion hurt rage, and finally, that cold calculation he had inherited from his father. "Michael, I can explain." Kimberly started her voice higher than usual. "Explain what exactly?" He looked from the phone to his wife to me standing on the porch with my apple pie. "Explain why my mother is outside holding a paper plate while you are inside playing hostess, or explain why you are having an affair with your boss." The dinner conversation inside had stopped. Complete silence except for the wind chimes on the neighbor's porch. "It is not what it looks like," Kimberly said desperately. "Those photos are taken out of context. Your mother has been following me, spying on me. She is trying to ruin our marriage because she is jealous. I had to admire her strategy. When caught red-handed, blame the messenger. It is a classic move, and under different circumstances it might have worked, but she had made one critical error. She had humiliated me in front of witnesses, and now those same witnesses were about to learn exactly who they had been sharing dinner with. Jealous, I repeated loud enough for the people inside to hear. "Kimberly, honey, I am 68 years old. The only thing I am jealous of is people who still have their dignity intact." Michael looked at the paper plate on the porch, then at his wife. "You made my mother eat outside." "It was just a joke," Kimberly said quickly. "A silly Christmas prank. She is being overly dramatic about it." "A prank?" Michael's voice was deadly quiet. I knew that tone. He had used it exactly twice in his childhood, once when his best friend stole his bicycle, and once when his first wife cleaned out their joint bank account. "You made my mother eat on the porch like an animal as a prank." Mr. Reynolds appeared behind Michael, wineglass in hand. "Everything all right out here? We are ready for dessert." "Actually, Tom," Michael said, never taking his eyes off Kimberly. "I think dinner is over." That was when I heard Mrs. Harrison's voice from the dining room. "Is that Michael's mother outside? Why is she not joining us? The moment of truth had arrived. Everyone was about to learn that the perfect Christmas hostess had been serving up humiliation along with the turkey. Because I called out cheerfully, stepping past Kimberly into the foyer, apparently there was not room for me at the table. But do not worry, I added. Kimberly made sure I had somewhere to eat. I held up the paper plate for everyone to see. The collective intake of breath was audible. Mrs. Harrison's wineglass stopped halfway to her lips. Mr. Reynolds' jovial expression transformed into something resembling horror. The younger couple I did not recognize exchanged glances that spoke volumes about what they thought of hosts who treated elderly mothers like stray dogs. "Oh my God, Mrs. Harrison whispered. "Kimberly, you did not actually." "It was a misunderstanding," Kimberly said, but her voice lacked conviction. She was watching her carefully constructed social image crumble in real time. Michael held up his phone. "And was this a misunderstanding too?" He turned the screen toward the group. I could not see their faces clearly from where I stood, but the silence was deafening. Mr. Reynolds set down his wineglass with deliberate care. "I think perhaps Margaret and I should be going." "Me too," said the young woman whose name I had never learned. "This feels like a private family matter." Within minutes, the dinner party had dissolved. Guests gathered coats and purses with the hurried efficiency of people fleeing a natural disaster. Polite thank yous and see you soons were exchanged, but everyone avoided looking directly at Kimberly. When the last guest had departed, Michael closed the front door and leaned against it. Kimberly stood in the middle of her perfectly decorated living room, surrounded by the debris of her ruined Christmas dinner. 15 years, Michael said quietly. 15 years of marriage, and this is what I get. My mother humiliated on my doorstep while you are having an affair. Michael, please. Kimberly tried again. Let me explain about the photos. It is not what you think. Then what is it? Michael moved closer to her, his voice gaining strength. Explain to me why you are checking into hotels with your boss. Explain to me why my mother was eating off a paper plate on the porch while you entertained people I work with. I could have spoken up. I could have provided more details about what I had witnessed over the past 7 months. But this was not my moment anymore. This was my son finally seeing his wife for who she really was. The hotels were for work meetings, Kimberly said weakly. Confidential client discussions. Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. In hotel rooms with overnight stays, Mom has photos from 6 different dates. Kimberly 6. Her face went white. She had not realized I had been documenting her activities for months. You want to know the really sad part? Michael continued. If you had just asked for a divorce, I probably would have given you half of everything and walked away quietly. But instead, you chose to destroy my relationship with my mother while carrying on an affair. What kind of person does that? Kimberly looked around the room as if searching for an escape route. The Christmas tree lights twinkled mockingly in the corner. The expensive decorations she had insisted on buying seemed to mock her. Michael, I love you, she said desperately. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. Just do not let your mother destroy what we have. That was when I decided I had heard enough. Kimberly, I said pleasantly, I did not destroy anything. You did that all by yourself when you decided to treat family like garbage while playing house with your boss. She whirled to face me. For a moment, I saw pure hatred in her eyes. This is all your fault. You have been trying to break us up since the day we got married. Have I? I tilted my head thoughtfully. Because I seem to remember offering to help plan your wedding, hosting your bridal shower, and babysitting your sister's kids when you needed time alone together. But apparently, helping family is what crazy old ladies do. Michael was staring at his wife like he had never seen her before. Is that what you really think of my mother? The question hung in the air like smoke, and in that moment, watching Kimberly scramble for an answer that would not further damn her, I realized something profound. For the first time in 3 years, I was not afraid of losing my son, because I was about to get him back. The silence stretched until Kimberly apparently decided her best defense was a good offense. She straightened her shoulders and faced Michael with renewed determination. "Your mother has been manipulating this family for years," she announced. "She pretends to be this sweet grandmother, but she is controlling and possessive. She cannot stand that you are married and happy." I almost admired her boldness. "Almost manipulating how exactly?" Michael asked. "The constant phone calls, the surprise visits, the way she questions everything I do?" Kimberly said, gaining momentum, now her voice rising. "She undermines my authority in this house at every turn." "Your authority? I could not help myself." "Kimberly, this is not a dictatorship. It is supposed to be a family." "See?" She pointed at me triumphantly. "Right there. That is exactly what I'm talking about. She cannot let me be the woman of this house." Michael rubbed his temples like he was developing a headache. "The woman of the house? What does that even mean?" "It means your wife should come first," Kimberly snapped. "Not your mother. A man is supposed to leave his parents and cleave to his wife. It is biblical." I blinked. In all the years I had known Kimberly, she had never expressed interest in anything biblical beyond using the church directory for networking purposes. "Did you just quote scripture to justify cheating on your husband?" I asked. Her face flushed red. "I am not cheating." Michael held up his phone again. "Kimberly, I have photos of you kissing another man. What exactly would you call that?" It was a moment of weakness," she stammered. "Tom was going through a divorce and I was trying to comfort him. It did not mean anything. 6 different hotels did not mean anything. It was just a few times, and it is over now, completely over." Michael walked to the window and stared out at the neighbor's house where lights twinkled cheerfully on their Christmas tree. A normal family having a normal holiday, the kind of life he had thought he was building with Kimberly. "When did you become someone I do not recognize?" he asked quietly. The question seemed to catch Kimberly off guard. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw something that might have been regret. "Michael, I never meant for things to go this far," she said, her voice softer now. "The affair, the way I have treated your mother, none of it was planned. It just happened." "Things do not just happen, Kimberly. People make choices." She moved toward him, reaching out tentatively. "I know I have made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, take a vacation, start fresh." "What about my mother?" The question stopped her mid-step. "What about her? Are you going to apologize for humiliating her on Christmas? For making her eat on the porch like an animal?" Kimberly's eyes flicked to me, then back to Michael. I could see her calculating, trying to determine what answer would serve her best. "If that is what it takes," she said finally. "If that is what it takes." Michael turned away from the window. "Kimberly, you do not apologize to someone because it is expedient. You apologize because you are genuinely sorry for hurting them." "I am sorry," she insisted. "Evelyn, I am sorry I hurt your feelings." The porch thing was inappropriate. I stared at her for a long moment. It was possibly the most insincere apology I had ever received, and I had heard some remarkable ones in my time. "Kimberly," I said, carefully, "do you understand why what you did was wrong? Yes, it was mean and unnecessary. But do you understand why it was wrong?" She looked confused. "Because it hurt your feelings." Michael closed his eyes. Even he could see that his wife had fundamentally missed the point. "It was wrong," I said gently, "because you treated a human being like they were less than human. It was wrong because you humiliated someone in their moment of vulnerability. It was wrong because you chose cruelty when kindness would have cost you nothing. I said, I was sorry, Kimberly protested. You said words that sounded like sorry. That is not the same thing. Michael sat down heavily in his leather recliner, the one Kimberly had tried to replace 3 times because it did not match her deeper vision. Kimberly, do you love me? He asked. Of course I do. Do you respect me? She hesitated just long enough to make the answer obvious. Yes. Then why would you think I would be okay with you treating my mother like garbage? What kind of man did you think you married? The question seemed to genuinely stump her. I realized with crystal clarity that Kimberly had never actually considered how her actions reflected on Michael's character. In her mind, this was purely about her relationship with me. I thought you would understand that I needed to establish boundaries, she said weakly. Boundaries? Michael laughed bitterly. Kimberly, the woman raised me alone after my father died. She worked 2 jobs to put me through college. She took care of me when I had pneumonia last year, while you were at your spa weekend. What boundaries exactly did you think you needed? She is too involved in our marriage. How is she too involved? Kimberly looked around the room as if searching for evidence. She calls too much. Once a week. She gives unwanted advice, like what Shishi. Kimberly's voice trailed off as she apparently realized she had no specific examples. What Kimberly? She loves me. She wants to be part of our family. She brings us food and remembers our anniversaries and asks about our lives. With each word, Kimberly seemed to shrink. The confident woman who had blocked the door earlier had been replaced by someone who was finally hearing how her behavior sounded when spoken aloud. I just wanted us to have our own life, she whispered. We do have our own life, Michael said. But that does not mean we have to shut out everyone who loves us. That is not how healthy families work. I watched this conversation unfold with a mixture of sadness and hope. Sadness because my son's marriage was clearly over, but hope because he was finally seeing the situation clearly. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my heart skip. It was from Tom Whitaker, Kimberly's boss. Kimberly, I think we need to talk. My wife found the hotel receipts. I looked up to find both Michael and Kimberly staring at me. Everything all right, Mom? Michael asked. I held up my phone. I think I said slowly things are about to get much more complicated. Because while we had been having this family drama, the real world had been spinning along without us. And apparently, Kimberly's affair was about to become everyone's problem, not just ours. Who was that? Michael demanded. Before I could answer, Kimberly's phone started ringing. She looked at the caller ID and went pale. It is Tom, she whispered. Michael's expression hardened. Answer it. I do not think. Answer it, he repeated, his voice like steel. Right now, on speaker. Kimberly's hands shook as she accepted the call and activated the speaker function. Kimberly. Tom's voice filled the room tight with panic. We have a problem. Tom Whitaker's voice crackled through the phone speaker like a confession being broadcast to the world. Kimberly Linda found everything. The hotel receipts, the texts, even the jewelry receipts from that weekend in Chicago. Michael's face went through several emotions at once. Hurt rage and something that looked like relief. The relief, I realized, was finally having confirmation that his instincts about his wife had been correct. Tom. I cannot talk right now, Kimberly said quickly, glancing at Michael with panic in her eyes. Yes, you can, Michael said firmly. In fact, I insist. Keep talking, Tom. There was silence on the other end of the line. Who is that? Tom asked. That would be my husband, Kimberly said weakly. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the Christmas music still playing softly from the dining room stereo. White Christmas, how appropriate for the death of a marriage. Oh, God, Tom finally whispered. Kimberly, what have you done? What has she done? Michael leaned forward. Tom, this is Michael Parker. I believe you know my wife quite well. Michael, this is not we never meant for what Michael cut him off. For me to find out. For your wife to find out, or for it to happen at all. I had to give Tom credit. When cornered, he chose honesty. For any of it, he said quietly. Michael, I am sorry. This got way out of hand. How long Michael's voice was deadly calm. 7 months, Tom admitted. Maybe 7. Kimberly shot to her feet. Tom, stop talking. Just stop. Actually, Tom, please keep talking, I interjected pleasantly. I am particularly interested in how this affects your position at Northbridge Pharma. Does your company not have policies about managers having affairs with married employees? The silence was deafening. Who is that? Tom asked. That is my mother, Michael said with what sounded like pride. And she is absolutely right. Your company does have those policies, does it not? Michael, please, Kimberly begged. Do not destroy his career over this. I am not destroying anything, Michael replied. You both did that when you decided to risk your jobs for hotel room encounters. Tom's voice came through the speaker smaller now. Kimberly, I think we need to prepare for the possibility that this is going to become public. Public, how Kimberly asked. Linda has already called my boss. She is threatening to file a complaint with HR about the inappropriate relationship, and she is talking to a divorce attorney. Michael stood up and began pacing. So, let me get this straight. Not only did you have an affair, but you did it with your boss, creating a massive conflict of interest that could cost you both your jobs. It was not supposed to be like this, Kimberly protested. What was it supposed to be like? I asked curiously. Did you have a plan for how the affair was supposed to go? She whirled on me. Stop acting like you are innocent in all this. You have been documenting our private lives like some kind of stalker. Actually, I said mildly, I have been documenting your very public activities. There is a difference between private and secret, dear. Michael stopped pacing. How long have you known about this? Mom, about 3 months for certain. I suspected longer. Why did you not tell me I looked at my son, this man I had raised from a boy who collected baseball cards to a successful adult who managed pharmaceutical sales across 3 states? Because you would not have believed me, and because I knew that eventually the truth would come out on its own. It always does. 3 months, Michael repeated slowly. He turned to Kimberly. You have been lying to my face for 3 months while I defended you to my mother. I never asked you to defend me, Kimberly snapped, then immediately looked like she regretted saying it. No, you just let me do it. You let me tell my mother she was being paranoid when she suggested you were working late too often. You let me make excuses for why you could not come to Sunday dinners anymore. You let me choose between you and her, knowing you were lying. Tom's voice interrupted. Kimberly, I have to go. Linda's lawyer is calling me. We will talk later. The line went dead. Kimberly sank onto the couch, her perfectly styled Christmas outfit looking suddenly rumpled. Michael, please let me explain everything. Everything. Michael sat across from her. Okay, explain everything. Start with why you thought it was appropriate to humiliate my mother on Christmas Day while you were having an affair with your boss. Those are 2 separate issues. Are they? Michael asked. Because from where I am sitting, they both seem to be about you thinking you can treat people however you want without consequences. I watched this exchange with fascination. My son had found his backbone, and it was magnificent to behold. The thing with your mother, Kimberly, began carefully. That was about setting boundaries. She has been interfering in our marriage since day one. Interfering how Michael asked. She questions my decisions. She makes suggestions about how we should live our lives. She acts like this is still her house. Michael looked around the living room. This was her house. I bought it from her when she moved to the condo. Remember, she gave us a deal that saved us $65,000. That is exactly what I mean, Kimberly said triumphantly. She held that over our heads constantly. She never mentioned it. She did not have to. It was always there, unspoken. Remember how much money I saved you. Remember how generous I was. I blinked. In all my years, I had never heard such creative rewriting of history. Kimberly, I said gently, when have I ever brought up the money? You did not have to. It was implied in everything you said. Michael shook his head. That is not how my mother operates. She is direct. If she has something to say, she says it. Like today, he added. When she had photos of your affair, she showed them to me directly. No hints, no implications, just facts. Kimberly's face flushed. Because you are vindictive and jealous. Vindictive, I considered this possibility. Jealous of what exactly? Of our marriage. Of Michael's happiness. Of the fact that he chose me over you. The room went very quiet. Even the Christmas music seemed to pause. Kimberly, Michael said slowly, I never chose you over my mother. I chose to build a life with you that included my mother. There is a difference, but she always comes first with you. That is not true. It is true. When she calls you, drop everything. When she needs something, you are there immediately. When she has an opinion about our lives, you listen. Michael stared at his wife for a long moment. Kimberly, she is my mother. Of course I listen to her. Of course I am there when she needs me. That is what family means. What about what I need? What do you need? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. I need to feel like I am the most important person in your life, Kimberly said finally. You are the most important person in my life, Michael said. But that does not mean my mother stops mattering, but she interferes. How? She Kimberly's voice trailed off, as she apparently realized she still had no specific examples. She loves us, Michael said simply. She wants to be part of our lives. She brings us food and remembers our birthdays and asks about our day. That is not interference, Kimberly. That is family. But I needed space to build our relationship without her constant presence. So you decided to have an affair instead. The question hung in the air like an accusation, because that was exactly what it was. Those things are not connected, Kimberly protested weakly. Are they not? I asked. Because it seems to me that someone who is committed to building a strong marriage does not usually seek emotional and physical intimacy outside that marriage. Kimberly looked at me with something approaching hatred. You do not understand anything about my marriage. I understand that healthy marriages do not require you to humiliate your partners, family members, I said evenly. And I understand, Michael added, that faithful wives do not spend Tuesday afternoons in hotel rooms with their bosses. And I understand, I continued pleasantly, that people who are truly sorry for their behavior do not spend their apologies blaming everyone else for their choices. Kimberly's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it, and her face went white. What is it? Michael asked. It is from Linda Whitaker, Tom's wife. What does it say? Kimberly's voice was barely a whisper as she read. I know about you and my husband. I am filing for divorce and sending all the evidence to your HR department. Have a Merry Christmas. Michael closed his eyes. So, this is really happening. Michael, please, Kimberly begged. Help me figure out how to fix this. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at me. Then he looked around the living room with its perfect Christmas decorations and expensive furniture and carefully curated life. Kimberly, he said quietly, I do not think this can be fixed. And that was when she finally started to cry. Kimberly's tears were the kind that come with the realization that everything you have built is falling apart faster than you can grab the pieces. They were not delicate feminine tears designed to evoke sympathy. These were raw, desperate sobs that shook her entire body. Michael, please, she gasped between breaths. I will do anything. I will quit my job. I will cut off all contact with Tom. I will apologize to your mother properly. Just please do not give up on us. I watched my son's face as he processed his wife's breakdown. There was pain there, but not the devastation I might have expected. Instead, there was something that looked almost like relief. Kimberly. Michael said gently, this is not just about the affair. Yes, it is. Everything else is fixable. The thing with your mother was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding I could not help myself. Kimberly, you made me eat on the porch like a dog. What exactly did I misunderstand about that? She turned to face me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I was trying to make a point. What point? That you cannot just show up whenever you want and expect to be included in everything. Michael's voice was incredulous. She was invited, Kimberly. I invited her. You invite her to everything because she is your mother. But it is my house too. It is our house, Michael corrected. Ours, not yours exclusively. Kimberly wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing her foundation. The perfectly put-together woman from earlier had disappeared entirely. I just wanted one Christmas where it was just us and the people I chose, she said plaintively. The people you chose? I asked. You mean your boss and his wife? The man you have been having an affair with? They were not supposed to be there, she admitted. Tom was supposed to stay home with Linda, but she insisted on coming at the last minute because she suspected something. Michael sat forward. Wait, you invited your affair partner to Christmas dinner? Not like that. He is your colleague. It made sense from a business perspective. Kimberly, you invited the man you are sleeping with to Christmas dinner with my mother. The full scope of her poor judgment was finally becoming clear. She had not just been having an affair. She had been flaunting it in front of our family, while simultaneously humiliating the one person who might have helped her if she had ever genuinely asked for forgiveness. It was not supposed to be weird, she said weakly. Not supposed to be weird. Michael stood up and began pacing again. Kimberly, what exactly was your endgame here? Were you planning to leave me for Tom? Were you hoping I would find out and file for divorce so you would not have to be the bad guy? Were you just planning to keep lying indefinitely? I do not know, she sobbed. I was not thinking clearly. For 7 months you were not thinking clearly. It just kept getting more complicated. I leaned forward in my chair. Kimberly, can I ask you something? She nodded miserably. Do you actually love my son? The question seemed to surprise her. Of course I do. Do you love him enough to put his needs before your own sometimes? Yes. Do you love him enough to treat his family with respect, even when you do not particularly like them? I asked. She hesitated. Yes. Do you love him enough to be faithful to your marriage vows? The hesitation was longer this time. Yes. Then why I asked gently, have you spent the last 7 months doing the exact opposite of all those things? She stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. I do not know. I think you do know, Michael said quietly. I think you know exactly why. What do you mean? I think you married me because I represented security, stability, and success. I think you thought you could mold me into the husband you wanted, while keeping the parts of your life that excited you separate from your marriage. Kimberly's tears had stopped. She was listening intently now. I think, Michael continued, you never actually wanted to be part of a family. You wanted to be the center of a universe where everyone revolved around you. That is not true, she said weakly. Is it not? Because when was the last time you asked about my mother's health? When was the last time you remembered my father's birthday? When was the last time you did something kind for someone in this family without being asked? The silence stretched until it became an answer in itself. I tried, Kimberly said finally. Did you, or did you just do the minimum required to maintain appearances? I hosted holiday dinners. You hosted dinner parties where my mother was treated like an inconvenience. I bought birthday gifts, generic gift cards purchased online the day before. I participated in family events, while texting your boss and complaining about having to be there. Each response hit like a physical blow. I could see Kimberly realizing that her version of being a good wife and daughter-in-law had been performative at best. Michael, she whispered, what do you want me to do? He sat back down and looked at her with something that might have been pity. I want you to be honest with yourself and with me. About what? About whether you actually want to be married to me or whether you just want to be married to the idea of me. The question hung in the air between them. I found myself holding my breath, waiting for her answer. I want to be married to you, she said finally. Why? Because we have a good life together. That is not why you marry someone, Kimberly. That is why you enter a business partnership. We have good chemistry, had Michael corrected. Past tense, and apparently not good enough to keep you from seeking it elsewhere. We want the same things. Do we? Because I want a marriage based on honesty, mutual respect, and shared values. What do you want? Michael asked quietly. Kimberly opened her mouth to answer, then closed it, then opened it again. I want to feel important, she said finally. I want to feel like I matter. And how has treating my mother like garbage made you feel important? It has not. How has having an affair made you feel important? It made me feel desired, chosen. And how has lying to me for 7 months made you feel important? It has not. It has made me feel terrible. Michael nodded slowly. So, the things you did to feel important actually made you feel worse? Yes. And now you're about to lose your job, your marriage, and probably most of your friends because Linda Whitaker is going to make sure everyone knows what happened. Yes. So, where does that leave us? Kimberly looked around the room as if seeing it clearly for the first time. The expensive decorations, the perfect furniture, the carefully curated life she had built, all of it was about to disappear. I do not know, she admitted. Michael stood up and walked to the window again. Outside, snow had started falling, dusting the neighborhood in pristine white. A Christmas card scene that mocked the ugly reality inside their house. I think, he said slowly, you need to decide what kind of person you want to be. Not what kind of wife you want to be, or what kind of daughter-in-law you want to be, but what kind of human being you want to be. Michael, please do not leave me, Kimberly pleaded. He turned back to face her. Kimberly, I cannot save you from the consequences of your choices. And honestly, I am not sure I want to try anymore. What does that mean? It means that the woman I married would not have humiliated my mother on Christmas Day. The woman I married would not have had an affair with her boss. The woman I married would not have lied to my face for 7 months while I defended her to the people who love me. People change. Yes, they do. And you changed into someone I do not recognize. Kimberly's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from an unknown number. Answer it, Michael said. I do not want to. Answer it anyway. With shaking hands, she accepted the call and put it on speaker. Kimberly Parker. The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, unfamiliar. Yes, this is Jennifer Miles from Northbridge Pharma Human Resources. I need you to come in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to discuss some concerning allegations that have been brought to our attention. The blood drained from Kimberly's face. Tomorrow is December 26th. Yes, it is. 9 a.m. sharp. Do not be late. The line went dead. Michael looked at his wife with something that might have been compassion. Well, he said quietly, I guess this is really happening. And that was when the front door opened and Tom Whitaker walked in without knocking his face grim with purpose. We need to talk, he announced. All of us. Tom Whitaker stood in our foyer like a man walking to his own execution. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled. Hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled, the smell of alcohol clinging to him like expensive cologne gone wrong. Behind him, snow continued to fall, creating a winter wonderland that mocked the disaster unfolding in our living room. Tom, what are you doing here? Kimberly asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Linda threw me out, he said simply. She also sent copies of all the evidence to my boss. Your boss and apparently half the company directory, I added dryly. He looked around the room, taking in the Christmas decorations and the 3 faces staring at him. Figured we might as well all go down together. Michael stepped forward. Tom, I think you should leave. Actually, Michael, I think I should stay. Because what I have to say affects all of you. We do not want to hear it, I said pleasantly. This family has had quite enough drama for one Christmas. Tom looked at me with something that might have been respect. Mrs. Parker, right, Evelyn. That is correct. You are the one who took the photos. I am. Smart lady. Thorough documentation. He turned to Michael. Your mother saved you about 2 years of wondering why your marriage felt wrong. Tom, get out, Kimberly said desperately. Just leave, please. Cannot do that, sweetheart. See, Linda's lawyer called me an hour ago. Apparently there is more to this story than just our little affair. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. What do you mean? Michael asked. Tom sat down on the couch without being invited like a man who had given up on social niceties. Kimberly, you want to tell them? Or should I? Tell us what I asked. Kimberly's face had gone completely white. Tom, please do not. Do not. What Michael's voice was sharp with alarm. Tom pulled out his phone and scrolled through it with the deliberate movements of someone who had been drinking. Linda has been doing her own investigation. Turns out Kimberly here has been quite busy. What kind of investigation? I asked. Financial, Tom replied. See, Linda used to be a forensic accountant before she married me. Old habits die hard. He looked up from his phone. Michael, when was the last time you checked your joint credit card statements? What does that have to do with anything? Humor me. Michael looked confused but pulled out his phone. I watched his face as he accessed their banking app. The confusion transformed into something much more serious. Kimberly, there are charges here I do not recognize. What kind of charges, I asked. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry purchases? Michael's voice got tighter with each word. Kimberly, there is over $9,000 in charges from places I have never been. Tom nodded grimly. That is just the beginning. Linda found evidence of a second credit card, one opened in your name, Michael, but sent to a P.O. box that Kimberly has been using. The silence in the room was deafening. Kimberly, Michael said slowly. Is this true? She could not look at him. It is not what you think. What is it then I needed a way to pay for things without you asking questions? Things like hotel rooms with Tom and gifts for Tom, she admitted in a whisper, and dinners when we traveled together for conferences. Michael set his phone down with careful precision. You opened a credit card in my name to fund your affair. It was only supposed to be temporary. Kimberly, that is fraud. It is not fraud if we are married. Spouses can. No, I interrupted. Spouses cannot open credit accounts in each other's names without permission. That is identity theft. Tom was nodding. Linda's lawyer confirmed it. Said it is actually a federal crime if the amounts are large enough. How large? Michael asked. Tom consulted his phone again. According to Linda's research, about $41,000 over the past 8 months. The number hung in the air like a physical presence. $41,000. Not just an affair, but financial fraud on a massive scale. Michael Kimberly said desperately, I can explain everything. Explain what? How you stole nearly $40,000 from me to fund your affair. It was not stealing. I was planning to pay it back. With what money I was going to get a promotion. Tom promised. I never promised anything, Tom said sharply. I specifically told you not to count on any promotion because of our relationship. Kimberly whirled on him. You said if I was patient, things would work out. I was talking about us potentially being together someday, not about your career advancement. Michael stood up abruptly. This is unbelievable. You two were planning a future together. Not planning exactly, Tom said. More like hoping. Hoping for what? For our respective divorces to happen naturally so we could be together without all this messiness. I blinked. You were both planning to get divorced. Not planning, Kimberly said quickly. Just if it happened naturally. If it happened naturally, Michael's voice was getting louder. Kimberly, marriages do not end naturally. They end because people make choices. We thought maybe you would realize we were not compatible. So, you decided to help that realization along by treating my mother like garbage and spending my money on your affair? It was not like that. Then, what was it like? Tom stood up, swaying slightly. It was like two people who were too cowardly to end their marriages honestly, so they sabotaged them instead. The brutal honesty of Tom's statement seemed to shock everyone into silence. That is what we did, he continued. We created situations that would force our spouses to leave us so we would not have to be the bad guys. Speak for yourself, Kimberly snapped. I am speaking for myself and for you, Tom replied evenly. Because that is exactly what you did when you humiliated Michael's mother today. You were hoping he would be so disgusted with your behavior that he would ask for a divorce. Michael looked at his wife with new understanding. Is that true? No. Maybe. I do not know. Kimberly was crying again. I just wanted everything to be different. Different how I wanted to feel like I mattered, like I was chosen, like I was the most important person in someone's life. You were the most important person in my life, Michael said quietly. But not the only person. Of course not. That is not how life works, Kimberly. People have families and friends and communities, Adults do not expect to be the center of someone's universe. I did, she whispered. I wanted to be your everything. I looked at this woman who had made my life miserable for 3 years, and for the first time, I felt something approaching pity. Not forgiveness, but pity for someone who had destroyed her own life, chasing an impossible fantasy. Kimberly, I said gently, being someone's everything is a terrible burden to place on another person. And it is not love, it is possession. She looked at me with surprise, as if she had forgotten I was there. Real love, I continued, wants the other person to have a full, rich life with many relationships. Real love does not require you to diminish other people to feel important. But I wanted to feel special. You were special. You were Michael's wife. You were part of this family. You threw that away because it was not enough for you. Tom was nodding. She is right. I threw away 24 years of marriage because I wanted to feel like I was 25 again. And now, Michael asked, now Linda is filing for divorce. I am probably going to lose my job, and I am sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot on Christmas night because I have nowhere else to go. He looked at Kimberly. Was it worth it? She did not answer. Michael walked to the Christmas tree and stared at the lights for a long moment. When he turned back, his face was resolved. Kimberly, I think you should pack a bag and stay somewhere else tonight. Michael, please, I need time to think, and you need to figure out how you are going to handle the credit card fraud and the HR investigation. Where am I supposed to go? That is something you will need to figure out. Tom stood up. You cannot stay with me. Linda changed the locks. For the first time, Kimberly seemed to realize that her safety net had completely disappeared. No husband, no lover, and probably no job by tomorrow evening. What about Christmas? She asked plaintively. What about it? Michael replied. We are supposed to open presents in the morning. We are supposed to have breakfast together. We are supposed to be a family, Michael finished. But families do not treat each other the way you have treated us. Kimberly looked around the room one more time, taking in the decorations she had spent weeks perfecting the life she had built and then systematically destroyed. I will get my things, she said finally, and headed upstairs. Tom moved toward the door. Michael, he said, pausing with his hand on the knob. For what it is worth, I am sorry. Your mother was right. You deserved better than what we gave you. After they both left the house, felt eerily quiet. Michael and I sat in the living room, surrounded by the remnants of Christmas dinner and the debris of a marriage. Are you okay? I asked. I think so. Are you? I considered the question seriously. 8 hours ago, I had been humiliated on this very porch, treated like something less than human by a woman who had made my son's life smaller and meaner for 3 years. Now that woman was gone, and my son was free. I am better than okay, I said. I am proud of you. For what? For choosing truth over comfort. For defending what is right, even when it was hard. Michael managed a small smile. I learned that from watching you. When today you could have walked away from that porch and never spoken to either of us again. But instead, you fought back. You documented the truth, and you made sure I saw it. I thought about that. I did not fight back for revenge. You know why then? Yes, I said softly. Because you are my son, and you deserve to know who you were really married to, and because no one should ever have to eat on the porch like a dog. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the snow fall outside the window. Mom, Michael said eventually, Yes. Next Christmas, would you like to host dinner at your place? I smiled. I would love that, but only if you promise to help with the dishes. Deal. And Michael. Yes. Next time you want to bring someone to Christmas dinner, make sure it is someone who understands that love multiplies, it does not divide. I will. As I drove home through the falling snow, I realized something profound had happened today. I had not just gained my son back. I had remembered who I was. Not just a mother or a mother-in-law, but a woman with dignity and strength and the right to be treated with respect. Sometimes, the best Christmas gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. And sometimes, when someone tries to make you eat like a dog, the best response is to remind them that even dogs have more loyalty than they do. If you are watching this, I hope you remember that you deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, no matter what anyone else tells you. And if someone tries to tell you otherwise, well, sometimes you just have to show them your teeth. Now, what would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Merry Christmas, everyone, and remember, the best revenge is living well. Thanks for listening. Do not forget to subscribe, and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.